we all wound up on Tatooine. That's where we found this boy. So then there's a pod race. And Qui-Gon Jinn. I was trying to see if I could do it.
Maybe Vader someday later. Now he's just a small fry.
What is, everyone? Welcome to Nerd On, the podcast you didn't need but deserve, and where all levels of nerd are welcome, and Corey and I are now holding hands.
You know it.
Today we are celebrating a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, in the 20th anniversary of Star Wars, The Phantom Menace.
Dun, 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 dun.
I stepped out of the room when they choreographed that.
Yeah.
Actually,
Dang.
we didn't.
We didn't. That was great.
Oh, wow.
That was
That was
completely random.
Yeah.
nice.
But we have been saying that all day.
Yeah.
But
Fair.
let me introduce the host. I'm going to do it myself because I said it that way, so I'm
Yeah.
going to do that. So
Yeah.
that's Corey.
Hi, I'm
That's Caitlin.
Hi, I'm Caitlin.
That's Ali.
Ali, hi.
And that's Tom.
Tom.
And I am Josh. And this episode is brought to you in part by our patrons over at Patreon.
I just wanted to be involved.
Yeah. If you are new to Patreon, Patreon is a membership service in which you can support your favorite creators, say like Nerd On, and in supporting them, you get goodies like bonus episodes, access to a Discord server that is always hopping, it seems.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
one hot tomato.
Fans are talking to us, other fans, about all sorts of different things, anime, comic books, movies, even personal stuff, like family stuff that's going on, which is fun. But yeah, you can check that out at nerdon.io/Patreon.
Join the Nerd On Nation today. Do it.
That was awesome.
If you want.
So
Yeah.
who's gonna? Should I?
Do it.
Should you? Should we? So what's happening next?
So, I mean, it is the 20th anniversary
Yeah.
of a film, and the film is a completed piece of work.
Yes, it is.
So that means at the end, we're going to rate it, which means right now we're going to
Guess
that grump.
Dun, 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 dun.
He's like, oh, my mom's gone. That's sad.
Oh, and that's sad.
This is real
That's
sad.
really sad.
It's real sad. You want some rock ice?
Yeah, you want some rock salt?
Okay. So Guess That Grump, if you're new to the show, is a segment where at the end of the episode, we're going to rate it at a 1 out of 5. 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. And all of us, no matter how high it is, if they rate it the lowest in the group, they are the Grump of the Week.
Even if it's a 4.9.
Yes. We encourage everyone at home to play along and send us who you thought would have been the Grump before the episode ends. And also send us what you think out of 1 out of 5 of
Yeah.
this film or piece of work that we're rating today. Since I explain, I will go first. And I think the Grump is going to be Caitlin.
What?
Wow.
Corey really loves Star Wars. Ollie really likes Star Wars. Josh likes a lot of things. You tend to have gripes about a lot of things
You just
that are very
like
small.
things.
I do have gripes
Wow.
about very small things.
Yeah.
But,
Way to
yeah.
generalize.
It's
He's
called
not wrong.
research. It's called a read.
Do you want to go next, Ollie?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pick Tom.
Boy.
Wow.
I think Tom's gonna be the grump.
Wow.
Swollest grump in all the land.
So that's one for
I'm the
Caitlin, one for
grumpest
Tom.
soul in the whole land.
Okay. I am going to pick Ollie.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
One for Ollie. So that's one across the board over here so far.
I'm going to pick Josh.
One for Josh. All right.
You can't pick yourself, Corey, so it's not an even spread.
Yeah, I'm totally going to pick myself. I'm going to pick...
His favorite character is Jar Jar Binks. What are you talking about?
Who's a gonna pixa?
Oh, it's either Ollie or Caitlin for me right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Callie?
Caitlin. I'll do Caitlin. I'm
That's
sorry.
Because you said Kali?
Yeah.
that's actually
Yeah.
a female call.
So there you go. That's
Game of Thrones.
that's where we end. We end with 2 on Caitlin, 1 on Josh, 1 on Ollie, 1 on Tom.
So ready for
Not
this.
on Corey.
None on Corey. I wonder why.
I wonder what shirt he's
Maybe
wearing right
because
now.
you kept saying, I'm so giddy. I'm so excited to do
Yeah,
this episode.
I am very
so
excited to do
stoked.
this episode.
Can't
Corey
wait.
is
It's going
wearing
to
a
be
Star
great.
Wars shirt.
I am.
Ollie is wearing a Star Wars hoodie, and I am wearing a Star Wars shirt.
Yeah.
So it is a little interesting.
Yeah. That's that.
That's happening.
But
Didn't even notice.
with that, we go into our next segment, which is a complete spoiler, is going to be our first impressions and initial reactions
Yes.
of
Yes.
the film. So let's go back in time. Think about the time where we watched the movie first. Doesn't have to be in theater, but just try to remember when we were those wee things that just came out of
I remember it.
wombs.
I remember it in theaters.
Hardcore.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Okay, so when I was a kid,
40
we
years ago.
loved 40 years ago.
40 years.
Wow.
Like Years ago, no, I was a big. My family were big fans of Star Wars. Like we had the gold and the silver VHS of like the original. Like we've go back to our original trilogy episode and check it out. Okay, but we talked about
Finger
those. Finger guns, lightning with my fingers. So big into Star Wars, period. And then this was announced.
Yeah.
And
I killed a man.
I was 12 or 13 at the time, and it blew my mind.
Yeah.
Like, I was so excited. Unfortunately, I didn't have it anymore, but I was going to put up the Phantom Menace poster that I had, that I got when it, and the Phantom Mentalist.
You don't have it anymore?
No, I'm going to have to look at my poster bin again, because I think that I do, but I don't know.
Okay.
But anyway, so the hype for this was real, too.
Oh, dude. Okay. Do you remember seeing the trailer and the moment Darth Maul turns on the other side of his lightsaber?
Yeah.
I lost my goddamn mind. I was like, you can do that?
Yeah. Well, and what's so funny is, like, people were paying full price to see the movie that this trailer was going to be in, and then walking out just so they could see this trailer.
Yeah.
The hype for this was insane.
There's no YouTube.
And so for me,
yet.
No YouTube.
Yeah. And it was, I remember seeing it and I was just fucking floored.
Fans were asking for it. The studio was asking for it. Like, only one that said no was probably George Lucas.
Yeah.
So it was up to him.
And I was so excited. And this was the first time they introduced episodes, episode 1. But and then when I saw it and I walked out again, I'm a little kid. I just lost my mind. It was so good.
Yeah.
And then, like, all of the Star Wars merchandise, Legos revamped, and they had Star Wars Legos. I mean, it was just like, and I was way into Legos, and it was just like, there's this reawakened Star Wars in the world.
Yeah.
And so for me, it reawakened Star Wars. For me, it's like, okay, there's more.
To me, I kind of felt like it created the validity for people to say their religion is Jedi.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have more than 3 movies, you can't say it.
Yeah.
And you finally have some science behind it with the midichlorians.
Yeah.
And Jesus Baby.
Yeah.
Sorry, I love the midichlorians. People give it shit. Yeah, I don't see why it's a bad thing.
I want us to unpack this.
I'll go first, or I'll go next, because I think I have the
I have a
shortest
bad feeling
amount.
about this.
Well, also, I'm like the youngest one, so like it's actually a really big blur.
Yeah.
Because I remember...
Well, you were like 9, right?
No.
1999, I was 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's
but,
like 9.
yeah, that's close. Give or take. Almost 12.
Basically 15.
Yeah. I had the black VHS set, so I was like... And then when they came out remastered in theaters with those stupid CGI editions, I made my mom buy the tickets and go to it. I remember going to the Taco Bell when it was the ugly logo, orange, brown, and green, and getting the little Happy Meal wannabes, for the Star Wars stuff, and I loved it. And then watching this, like, to me, Darth Maul was just the coolest looking thing. I didn't think of anybody.
Still fucking is.
Yeah, I don't know who
Ray Park.
I don't know
I
who the
forgot
heck
about
is
you and Ray Park.
Obi-Wan. I don't know who
I guess
Qui-Gon
not.
is. Because to me, these were just like, these are the good guys with the lightsabers and like that's all it was.
Not even good guys.
Right? And then
The Jedi and the Sith aren't different.
yeah, and then watching the original, like, what's that mean? It's like, this has all happened before, and I was like, oh.
And the CGI, like, seeing it back then, I mean, yes, comparing it from CGI now, but seeing it then, you're like,
Yeah.
what?
Well, I mean, even seeing it now, it's all like, damn, that was real good, baby.
Yeah.
For 20 years ago?
Yeah, real
Yeah.
good. And Sebulba was like my favorite character because he had the dopest speeder.
Yeah.
And he had the coolest design to me. But also, it made me want to go to every single arcade place and play a pod racing game.
Yep.
'cause
That
those are
pod
dope.
racing on the Nintendo
I
64?
think 64 played that so much.
But yeah, I as a kid, it was just more like, this isn't the same stuff. I had no idea it was connected until I saw a poster after I watched it, and the poster was of Anakin with the shadow of Darth Vader, and it's the greatest poster
Anakin.
I've ever seen in my entire life.
Can you reach
Whoa.
behind you and grab the DVD or the Blu-ray set? Sorry,
Oh, yes.
I don't want to. It has
We've got it's probably got that on there.
The,
Yeah, we'll just leave that in the middle there.
Dun, 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 dun.
it's kind of like that, but anyway,
Yeah.
Close to that.
yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I was Hypetown USA. So my
been
dad,
there.
I grew up watching all the Star Wars over and over and over again. Not only at my dad's house, but with my grandma as well. When she would pick us up from school, it was like, all right, which one of the 3 Star Wars is I going to watch today? And so going into this, I was old enough to comprehend that I was like, this is my dad explained it to me, and he was like, I saw the original one at a drive-through, and I snuck in
Holy
someone's
balls.
trunk, and like I got in for free because we didn't know what it was going to be, and it was
Wow.
like blew everyone's mind in 1977 or 9, or I forget which one it is. But he's like, he was as excited as I was, right? He at the time
Yeah.
he was 30, I want to say 37. So he was like
wow.
pumped.
Yeah.
So he took me to go see this, and I, like Josh, lost my goddamn mind. It was the first time I had seen lightsaber battles that were like real.
Yeah.
Well, this got
lightsaber.
to be the first time for us.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it wasn't like the one hit here, one hit there.
It wasn't medieval
The
fighting.
closest we got was Return of the Jedi when Luke gets like angry, right?
Yeah.
But that's still very like medieval fighting. This is like very
this we got like
samurai-ish.
Ray Park, who's like arguably one of like the best choreographed fighters in cinema, at least in my lifetime. And you had Ewan McGregor, who gave 120% to every, like there's some behind the scenes stuff where he bent his practice staves because he was like so into it. And he wanted to do it real time. He's like, I don't want them to speed anything up. I want to be able to like.
And he also went
do it.
boom, boom, boom.
They had to ask him
boom.
to stop making the sounds. And they're like, well, we'll add that in later, you know. So for me, this was fucking awesome. I think as a kid, I probably thought Jar Jar Binks was the funniest thing in the world. And I still don't hate him.
Really?
And I think the actor did, like with what the actor was given, like he was given a script with this character. He fucking knocked it out of the park. Came up with a really unique, beautiful character. It's annoying at times, yeah, but it's nothing to do with him. It's a lot of the writing.
Yeah, for sure.
But for me, this is like, this movie embodies the entire theme of the Star Wars universe, at least up until Return of the Jedi. And I'll go into that a little later. So I have, even rewatching this, I'm like, it's probably the worst of the Star Wars films, but I fucking love this movie.
But it's more Star Wars. I've said this to Corey. It's more Star Wars than some of the newer Star Wars films.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Like some of the anthologies are less Star Wars.
Argue with that.
Yeah.
They're more their own movie.
Plus
Interesting.
you got like, first of all, Obi-Wan played by Ewan McGregor. You got Qui-Gon Jinn with Liam Neeson's. Natalie Portman's in it.
Well, you got all
like-
the original stars too. You got
Yeah.
Frank Oz. You got
Yeah.
Warwick. So it's-
What's his name who plays Palpatine? I
Yeah.
can't remember his name right now. I feel
That
like
I
a
lost
jerk.
my mind. When I
Yeah.
saw him in the movie and I knew the name
original
and I knew the
Palpatine came
connection,
back.
I was like, what?
What's happening? What is happening? And then I just want to give a special shout out, and I'll expand this later. But that fucking pod race scene.
That podcast?
racing.
Nerd
The
on the
podcast?
podcast?
Nerd on the podcast. Nerd on. But the pod racing scene is phenomenal for a number of reasons, and we'll go into that later.
Ian McDermott.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
I remember seeing this, and it was, I grew up watching Star Wars. So like
Yeah.
that was something my dad liked, and we watched it all of the movies over and over and over again. So, and I had friends who were like reading the books and everything. So we were talking about, Star Wars and everything. And then when these movies came out, they're like, oh, I don't know. And then we saw it, and like, I was a kid. I fucking loved it. It was great. And I liked the movie. But I fell in love with Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Like-
did too.
That was
all those horns
all those horns.
and those yellow teeth. and
Edge
eyes.
Lord, red and black. Like, of course,
That
when
failing
I'm-
liver for his eyes.
Oh yeah, that was great. No, I mean everything about it was everything I remembered from the movies that I'd grown up watching, but like a newer spin, and there was like it was a lot brighter too. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So yeah, George talked about this. He was like, because this is before the fall of the Republic, like I wanted this to feel like a period piece. So they used on location things like a huge one of the oldest and largest castles in Italy was used as the palace and stuff like that.
And they
for
shot it up
Naboo.
with real droids.
Yeah, right. So it's just stuff like that. It's brighter on purpose because it's when the Republic is quote unquote thriving.
Right.
Yeah.
And they did a very, very good job with that. And I remember nothing but warm fuzzy feelings about this movie.
Like how cool is their ship?
I know.
Yeah.
That reflective, totally
I know.
reflective.
The Capri Sun one?
Oh, so good.
Yeah, the Capri Sun. That's exactly what I thought the first time I saw it. I was like, is this
That's,
Capri?
that's
The
who
ship.
the Silver
Yeah.
Surfer is.
Ollie, right?
For me, it's pretty blurry as far as like
Yeah.
what that day was. I just remember not really
Was that when you were tripping on acid?
yes.
Okay, got
At
it.
the
got it, got
ripe
it.
age
Well, he
of
was
15
also
or
like
whatever it was.
jet lagged from going from different countries.
I know it was shout out to my uncle. Went with my uncle.
Oh, your
Uncle?
uncle?
Cool Uncle Kevin.
So, shows
Thank
some
you.
R-rated films.
Yeah, showed me my first R-rated film. I hadn't seen Star Wars until they re-released in theaters,
Oh wow,
so I saw them in theaters.
dope.
And then we saw Phantom Menace as well. So I know I went with him. And I remember really enjoying it and being like really amazed with like the special effects. And I like the design of like Naboo, and I really like the Naboo like fighters and
Yeah.
the jets that they have, the
Of course
yellow
you do,
ones.
Prince Ali Boo Boo.
Yep. And I just really like pretty much every aspect of it. I just really didn't like. I remember even then not loving the Gungans just in general.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just like they looked too silly or cartoonish, or I just didn't like laugh at anything that they were doing. And I felt like
a lot of their humor is like body sound humor.
Yeah, and
Like
right, and
like,
that stuff I was like,
I get it.
because it just reminded me of the special effects from the 3 other movies that I had just seen, where I felt like they added 0 to the movie, and it was kind of a little bit of that where I felt like in some instances like I felt like it was unnecessary, like too many jokes, almost to the point where. We're like, I wanted to be a bit more serious, but like, I don't know.
I think
Overall, though.
we'll
but I
talk a
loved
little-
it.
yeah.
It was like Darth Maul, Duel of the Fates.
But also, I think we
Yeah.
should talk. We'll talk about it a little bit after we get through everything. Until we get to our meat and potatoes. But like, I think there's a good reason why it all happened the way it was.
Yeah.
So that's everyone's initial reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Production.
Brief synopsis.
Right. Why do I always think? Well, because it doesn't say it here.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I should add it back in.
And
Done.
Yeah.
also, shout out creative title.
Yeah. Phantom Menace sounds dope.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
the
I
names
do.
sound dope.
And it's so good. Phantom Menace is great.
All of the
It's-
names.
it
to the
plays
Star
on a
Wars movie
bunch of
sounds
different
dope.
themes in the movie.
Yeah.
Everyone at home, just everyone listening, if you hear any weird movement, it's because we're swatting flies or something like that. Summer's out, baby. Buns out, guns out, sun's out. Go on.
There you go.
Oh, so I'll do the brief synopsis. I think it might be easiest if I do it from the point of view of Obi-Wan. So
Okay.
a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, Naboo was under an attack. I thought me and Qui-Gon Jinn could talk the Federation into maybe cutting them a little slack. The response, it didn't thrill us. They locked the doors and tried to kill us. We escaped from that gas and met Jar Jar and Boss Nass. We took Obongo from the scene and we went to Theed to see the Queen. We all wound up on Tatooine. That's where we found this boy. So then there's a pod race and Qui-Gon Jinn. Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to see if I can do it.
Maybe
Vader someday later, now he's just a small fry.
But I just wanted to do that because it covers everything in the first part
really
of the film in
quickly,
like
yeah.
4 lines.
Wow.
So basically, there's this pod race, and Qui-Gon bets like on the boy if they
freedom.
Yeah, if he wins, they're free. And he gets the boy free, but not the mom. And she's like, "It's fine, go be a Jedi."
Sure, leave me to die.
Then the Jedi Council's like,
We won't.
"We're not going to train him
because he's too fearful."
He's full of hate and fear. Do you want to do it?
Okay.
Just saying, it's all you if you want. Star Wars ensues.
Wow.
Yeah, and you find out that there is a Sith that has returned, and he goes and fights Qui-Gon as soon as they're getting the boy off the planet, that kind of thing. And then fast forward just a little bit more, there's a lot of democracy that happens. A lot of
Democracy.
when I was younger was the
Bureaucracy
most
ensues.
boring thing. Now I find it probably one of the more interesting parts of the story.
That's why you start liking Star Trek when you're older.
Yeah. And then you get Anakin flying a ship and literally saving the day at the age of like 9, which was unheard of at the time. And you get one of the greatest lightsaber duels until like, I'd say Return of the Sith, the end of Return of the Sith. Scoring with Duel of the Fates. You get that Darth Maul fight with Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan. Qui-Gon Jinn dies and Obi-Wan
And Darth Maul doesn't.
uses the Force and he pulls himself back up using his master's blade and cuts him in half. And he decides, you know what? I'm going to train him in memory of my honor. I'm going to train the kid. And the day is saved. Star Wars, Episode 1, Phantom Menace.
Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun.
That was quick.
That's real quick.
Quickest one we've
Wow.
ever done,
Yeah.
I think.
Thanks, Weird Al.
Yeah. I mean, I left out the big battle on Naboo
Yeah.
with the Gungans, but
Some gun
Yeah.
guns
they
died.
probably should have as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that brings us now to the production.
Yes.
So distributed by 20th Century Fox before, bought by Disney. Director George Lucas, who was best known to do the Indiana Jones films, as well as the writer for the original Star Wars films. Producer Rick McCallum, who did Young Indiana Jones TV series. Yeah. And then all of the original Star Wars films and the later on prequel films that would have to follow after this film. The writers, only George Lucas. So that's really cool. Screenwriter, no. Story, no. All George Lucas. He has a writing credit. Cast, Liam Neeson's, who we know from Taken, Chronicles of Narnia as Jesus Lion. And
Aslan,
Yeah.
for those that don't know what that is.
Jesus Lion. He dies on a testament. Anyways, Love Actually. Yeah. And Batman Begins as Ra's or Ra's al Ghul.
However you want to say it.
Yeah. We have Ewan McGregor. Ewan.
Oh, boy.
Who is from Big Fish. Trainspotting, and Moulin Rouge.
Whoa. I already wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
The full circle.
Wow.
Natalie
Flashback to our train spotting episode.
Natalie Portman, who we first saw her hit this big screen, her big splash
Leon.
was Leon the Professional,
so good.
as some is just a professional. Later on, after this film and other films, went to study psychology, then did V for Vendetta. And then came back, or did that, studied psychology, then came back to do Black Swan, get that Academy Award, baby.
There's so many
Now
people
she's a
in
mom.
this.
Now she's
Keira
a
Knightley,
mom.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Jake Lloyd, who
There's a
plays
lot.
Anakin.
Yep.
Ian McDermott, who plays Sheev,
Yep.
Palpatine. Pernilla August, who's the mom. But and
Shmi?
Ahmed Best, who plays
Shout out to that dude. Like, I love that guy. Sorry, the guy who played Jar Jar. Like, I know he got a lot of hate and stuff like that, and I feel so bad for him because it's again, it's not. I love him. If you've ever seen him in interviews, he seems like the nicest fucking guy I've ever met.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel awful.
And we also get Sofia Coppola
No.
Yeah.
in the film. And
You say no?
Wait.
Sofia Coppola.
Who does she play?
She plays
Who
Sasha.
did she play?
One of the handmaidens.
I think. And
That's not the one I was pointing at, though.
you're pointing at Keira Knightley.
Yeah.
I know. And Corey said that.
She's the Padme Sandin.
She's Padmame. And we get our first appearance of the purple wielding master, Samuel
Thanos.
L.
L.
Jackson.
Which
Mother.
he asked, "Can I have a purple
He asked for the
lightsaber?"
purple lightsaber.
And then
in clone.
George was like, I don't know, they're either green or they're blue or they're red. And he's like, but I'm like the baddest fucking Jedi
And
next to
I just want to
Yoda.
see myself.
And then he said he came back to do reshoots, and George was like, I want to show you something. And he had a purple lightsaber, and he was like, yeah!
And then the internet hated it.
Yeah,
Oh.
which they were wrong about. So
They are. They still are.
It's the coolest
It's the
fucking
color
thing.
I would have for my
It's the
lightsaber.
coolest thing. Like,
It
get
is.
over yourself. It's a
Yeah.
color.
Yeah.
Now
That's
they
fine.
have like 40 colors, and
Yeah,
no one
of course.
cares.
Of course not.
There's yellow, there's orange, there's
Different
green.
kinds
Somebody
of lightsabers.
has
There's
to
different kinds of
trailblaze.
greens. There's Viridian.
Like teal.
Yeah, there's silver, black.
I do want to open the floor a little bit about, like, we talked about our initial reactions as well as like where the state of the world was when these films came out. And a lot of people, I think a lot of negative reviews came out like weeks later. And I think the funny thing about it is that when the film first hit, like, uproarious applause. No
Yeah.
one hated the film. There was nothing but positive things. And then 2 weeks later on, that's when the downpour of all the like negative reviews came in. And it's kind of funny that actually played in part with every single Star Wars film that happened afterwards. Nothing but good. 2 weeks later, all the negative ones.
Yeah.
We're now in our 2019 world, 20 years later, we get the negatives first and then we get the positive later
Your
on.
fate is
Yeah.
sealed before the
Yeah,
picture
which
opens.
is really interesting. And it's kind of like, it's because everyone just has these rose-tinted glasses for Star Wars films, and rightfully so, because, it changed the way that we see sci-fi,
Sci-fi.
dramas.
Yeah.
And the funny thing as well is
Well,
that,
I get, just to speak on that a little bit, is I also think that there is a bit of I'm going to call them baggage glasses, where it's
where you don't sleep a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Susan Sarandon and Vince Vaughn.
Oh.
The original Star Wars
But shout out
holds
to them. I
such
love you
a
guys.
the original Star Wars holds such a place in people's hearts that
Because they saw him as kids.
they saw them as kids, and so when they see these kinds of things,
Nothing could be better.
nothing can be better, and they are glasses, and it clouds anything else that could be seeing new stuff.
It's like beer goggles, but poison goggles.
It's like, okay, so the analogy I used to have is when I was growing up, my dad used to make the best fucking ribeyes I've ever had in my life. And to this day, I still think they're my favorite ribeyes.
Oh.
But I used to think that I was like, well, I can't like this because it's not as good. And then I grew up and was like, wait, that's dumb. I still love steak. I just can extra love the one my dad makes. And
Yeah.
I can still appreciate this ribeye from this place.
I thought you were going to say, and then I made a better one.
No, I still haven't been able to
I
make
would
better
say
steaks than
it
he
goes
has.
a little deeper than that. I think, as we'll probably talk about, I think these movies are good at, the prequels are good at like wrapping up with a really good climactic like sequence or series of
Yeah.
I
sequences
need to get the next one.
that like leave you with a good taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
Like at the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like no matter how boring, quote unquote, or whatever it was up until that point.
And
That pays off well.
going about this episode, I didn't do like a lot of like analytical research. I just went more back like a time capsule like research.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I forgot about all of the childlike Ewok films and TV episodes,
Or
and-
just Ewoks in general.
yeah.
Something like Battle for Endor. or
Well,
something
like,
like
no,
that. I
they
forget
have
what
like
it's called.
young Ewok Adventure,
The TV show?
Yeah.
where like Richard,
and they had a movie that was just Ewoks.
Well, it was like Richard Warwick was like he was like the main Ewok, and he was like
Warwick
this-
Davis.
Warwick Davis, yeah, and his character was named like Frank or Ewok Warwick.
Yeah.
It's dumb. Anyways, but he's like, the movie or the entire story is pretty much him escorting 2 human kids back to their families.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's things like that where it's like, when people say like, oh, the Gungans are dumb, or like this is like a child family movie and it's like not Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's like, well, where else did you see the franchise going? Like George Lucas definitely signed off and saying like, yeah, you can do this with my franchise, and making it like these kind of happy, jovial like programmers. So it's kind of like, it to me, it almost felt like, did you not expect that?
Yeah.
But secondly, like when George Lucas went about to make this film, you know, there was a lot of political things happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why the whole trade federation was going on, because in current political times, like the allegory is made where like there was a lot of taxation, as well as like the free trade was being like scrutinized during the time of, and so he wanted to connect to that.
Yeah.
And I mean, also like Rwanda was happening at the same time.
Oh,
So like there's things that were playing in part to what caused him to like write and like create this film at the same time. So it's actually like, compared to the original series, it's trying to have a lot more message in it than the other ones. The other ones are a little bit more just kind of like,
They're the hero's journey.
Yeah.
but then
Yeah.
also like the most you get out of it is that like the stormtroopers are blitzkrieg and like the Empire is the Nazi army.
Yeah.
And he wanted to show how a peaceful republic could become that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with all those messages, like people just wanted, I just want lightsabers,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
so that, I think that's a tough,
Boy, did we get them.
a tough thing that happens.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I mean, I'm always kind of amazed when it comes to the Star Wars mishigash that goes on. I mean, now we have the internet. I mean, we had the internet then, but not as prevalent as it is now, where somebody can go on an Instagram or a Facebook or something like that and just
Spit vitriol.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's easy. And like I'm of, and we'll find a segment to get into this, but I am in defense of these films. I know they get a lot of hate and a lot of shit, but I love them. I think they do really well at tying with the themes of the original trilogy, and I can get into that in depth. If you want a big in depth video, maybe I can make that later on. Let us know. But it's really true to heart with the other films, and like I think there was some missteps with relying too heavily on comedy at some points. But again, it's also a family film.
Yeah.
And that happened with the Ewoks. Like people back in the day hated Ewoks, and now they're like beloved. And it was just because it was different.
Funny thing for me, I'm not like
yeah.
as big a defender as you are, but so when I was a kid and rewatching all the movies, I rewatched Jedi the most.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about this on
Yeah.
our episode.
Yeah.
And so when I watched this, it didn't affect me that much.
Yeah.
You know? So I
Same.
was already geared toward that.
It didn't affect me. The Gungans don't bother me as much. There are some things like when he comes up and he's like, "You're in big doo doo," and I was like, "Okay."
Oh yeah. There's bad stuff there, but
Yeah.
it's like whatever.
But
As
it
a
didn't.
kid.
It didn't take me out of it. So, and
Yeah.
I'll find a segment in here to get into that. Maybe during the favorite parts or something.
Favorite parts?
Speaking
Or
of,
qualms.
of,
That's
favorite
what I
parts.
meant to say.
yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, Josh, go ahead. We talked a lot.
I mean, favorite parts for me, I mean, the two biggest ones that really hit me in the head are the pod race and the last lightsaber battle.
Can we talk
Those
about the pod race
Yeah,
for a sec?
of course.
And how phenomenal it is that 12 minutes of it have no music, no scoring whatsoever. It's all
The
sound
scoring
design.
is the sound.
Yeah. And
Which
it's
is-
because the thing I like about it is it's a new thing. No one had ever seen pod racing before. It's crazy. Like blew my mind. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. The game was the best. But the score doesn't tell you how you should feel. At any point, something can go terribly wrong or terribly right, and you wouldn't be able to know.
Yeah.
Your emotions aren't. The music doesn't start until it's just Sebulba and Anakin, and then it's like a dun 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 dun, and you're like, what is happening? And for me, that's really important to the scene, and I thought that was a really strong choice.
Well, I mean, the thing about Star Wars that me as a post-production audio engineer, Star Wars is, I think, the epitome of sound design.
Like the benchmark.
The benchmark, like the things that
Skywalker
went
Ranch.
into it. Yeah, I mean, so that scene,
It's
when
amazing.
I'm mixing something or if I'm designing something, I really want there's a play that happens between the sound effects and the music, and sometimes music can replace sound effects because they don't need it, or sometimes sound effects can create the soundtrack.
Right.
And that's what happened in this, where you're actually the feel of the scene is the like the yeah. I mean, it's
Yep.
everything that's happening.
that.
You're
Coming up right up against him.
all the details that are happening within the pod racers, like everything that's happening has a sound to it and it's unique. And it's like, yeah, maybe it's something else,
Each
like a
engine's
coffee
different.
maker or something, but it's like it's you're in it. And that's what I like.
Can I add to that a little bit?
Yeah.
Like a film theory standpoint. So in film theory, we talk about the diegesis of the film, and that when you see it and you hear at the same time, like if I see someone talking and I hear them talk, that's called diegetic sound. And
Okay.
it's in the frame. If I hear someone talking and I can't see it, it's the non-diegetic. And so everything outside the frame is that. And so I like what you talk about, how like Star Wars is the benchmark for that, because, and I've said the same verbiage to you. It's like you create a very good soundscape. And I like where it's kind of like, I feel like I'm in a 3-dimensional world, not because like the only thing in front of me is making noise, but everything around me is making noise.
It's the sound. I like that word, soundscape.
Yeah.
It's so you're not. My teachers in audio school were also like read the screen, but also read the scene, like what is going on around it. That's like backgrounds. Like if you watch a movie and you're like really paying attention, you're gonna hear, especially in 5.1, you're gonna hear like what's going on.
Yeah.
And like with this, you've got crowds, you've got the desert. I mean, you've got. It's such a. Yeah.
And for me, I have a really critical eye towards that kind of thing. And like Ollie, I know that I've joked about it and we talked about it, and I agree. And I love when a good score swells and all that stuff. But that sometimes tells me that like the filmmaker thinks the score is more important than the sound inside of it. Yeah. And so usually the sound that's inside of it is the driving force.
Yeah.
And when you have that feeling, I know that the filmmaker is more confident in that. Because if you lead your sound to lead everything, that means you don't think your frame is telling the story strongly.
It's interesting. That comes up a lot. I've heard that a lot with the prequels, and I kind of agree with it as far as like relying a little too much on maybe the music. But
It's a line to tell.
I mean, it's
it's
the entire Star Wars franchise does.
because the music is so phenomenal.
Yeah, well,
Which is
I don't
one of
think
my
it's- I don't
favorite
think it's a
parts.
crutch.
Yeah.
But I think it's a
I
choice.
think the way they use it, like I like to say, like the sound is almost like a lighting. It sets a different mood for it,
Yeah.
where like you get the red and blues, but then also you get the sound, so it's like
oranges and greens, and you're like, I get it.
favorite parts. It's I guess a dark horse of it. Any part with Natalie Portman as a
Handmaiden.
handmaiden.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
liked it, not because of like how sweet she is with Anakin, but because of her interplay with Qui-Gon. Like when she's like, Princess Amidala wouldn't like this, like, well, she doesn't have to know, and then she just gives him the fuck you eyes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's really cool. I was like, this is really good. And like I was rewatching it recently, and I just noticed how like that whole scene where they're on Tatooine and it's just Qui-Gon, Padme, and the kid, and no Obi-Wan, and it really shows those dynamics play. And Padme kills it a lot of the time. Like I like how she's very like, you know, we shouldn't be here, but also like she has that very nurturing mindset, but she's also like, remember the mission. And Qui-Gon's kind of like the Obi-Wan, you know, the old school Obi-Wan, where it's like, I don't know, let's find out what happens.
Just really quick backtrack. Same sound designer as the originals.
Nice.
Oh,
Of course.
wow.
Dude, of course, George Lucas is like, I'm making the movies. Like,
Yeah.
all right, let's go on.
And he
buddy.
also did like Indiana Jones and some of those.
all the
so.
Lucasfilm LTDs.
I want to
makes
bring it
sense.
back to the Darth Maul lightsaber fight that you brought
Yeah.
up and we moved on from, because Caitlin loves as well. I'm assuming. Is that one of your favorite parts?
That is the
Is your favorite part?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about it for a sec.
Yeah.
Because first of all, Duel of Fates.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite Star Wars.
Probably one of the
Songs.
most now recognizable,
Yeah, tracks.
besides the main
for
theme.
sure.
Yeah.
or Imperial March.
Yeah,
Those
or
are the
Imperial
three.
March.
Those are the
Those are
Titans.
three.
Yeah.
For me, this takes the cake. Like anytime I hear this, I'm pumped. Like I used
Yep.
to put this on to get excited about shit. Like that's the kind of
You
kid I
fucking
was.
Gonna brush my
Nerd.
teeth today. Put my pants on.
But first of all, the choreography is amazing.
Yes.
Because you have someone like Ray Park, you do whatever the fuck you want with it.
It's got
And-
goosebumps thinking about it in my head.
Yeah, I mean,
I got
also
a boner
the,
thinking about it in my head.
the
well.
it like Tom brings up a lot. Like use your fight scenes to push the story, and it does that really well.
Yeah.
Right. So like throughout this whole film, you hear about the Sith rising. You're like, there's Sith again. What's happening? What's going to happen? And this is a culmination of everything Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon have gone through.
I want to compound that with the scene where we first see Darth Maul attack Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
And when Qui-Gon escapes finally, Obi-Wan's like, what is that? And he said, I don't know. They don't even mention it as a who is he?
Yeah.
Or what was going on.
Well, and then
It's,
we
what is
find
that?
out later
I'm not
on in
sure.
a scene between Yoda and what is Samuel L. Jackson's character?
Mace
Windu.
Windu.
Mace Windu. They're talking about there can only be two.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember then I was like, what?
Yeah.
The rule of two, babe.
Because they're more powerful.
Yeah.
If there's only two, they get all the force.
But then also, like, they were building up Darth Maul as well as Sidious up so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even the Imperial the Trade Federation are like, now there's 2 of them.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
bruh.
Well, it's like, did we see the master or the apprentice?
Well, also, I mean, there's also the symbology of
Yeah.
Obi-Wan using his
Master.
master's blade to cut down the foe that kills it. It's his literal full circle moment of like trainee to master.
Mhm.
And they grant him for killing a Sith, you automatically get Jedi Master.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a cool, really emotional moment there, and it ties into my defense of the whole film, and I think it's really important.
And along that line, like it's like passing the torch down, right? And it's like unfortunate events happen where the torch is just dropped down to him, and it, in a nice way, it sets up the good consequence that Qui-Gon has placed upon Obi-Wan. This is the path that I decided to take, but that now you must fulfill. And although it's like, I must do this for my master, but it's also like, this is the path that was set for me, and I have no choice but to train this boy.
It was a dying wish kind of thing.
Yeah,
so...
and he even like said at the when he's like, don't piss off the council. If you were actually listening to them, you'd be part of the council too.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, I can't train him, but he can watch me. And then he says, train him, just fucking train him.
Yeah.
And it's all fucking downhill from there. Fucking Qui-Gon ruined everything.
And Star Wars
Yeah.
ensues.
No, because he does restore balance to the Force.
Yeah.
He does.
does. True.
After a
He's
hot
Agent
minute.
Smith.
No one else would have killed Palpatine except for him.
Fair point.
So that's that.
That was your favorite part, right?
I mean, yeah, the Tatooine sequences are, I think, were to me the best.
Yeah.
Tatooine, pod racing, Padme, Qui-Gon. It's the premise
Being
to play.
in the shop.
It's the
Yeah.
promise of play. So it's like we get to see the characters actually be them. Yeah, that's all I'll say for now.
In different environments that like.
Well, it goes back to the whole dusty environment of that we were like familiar with in the first film.
Yeah.
Of A New Hope. And it's like, that's not what they wear normally. I mean, that's not just desert garb. That's what they actually wear is brown garb, neutral colors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I also just
And
say
ponchos.
how satisfying it is to watch Jedi cut down battle droids?
Yeah.
Like just with ease,
Yes.
just like well, just falling
And
apart.
Butter.
And as much as everyone likes, wants to hate on these films, like these prequel films gave us the best Star Wars fight scenes.
Yes, they did.
Yes, they did.
Like the moment when he uses his lightsaber to start to cut through the door, in the Trade Federation, and
Blows
it
your mind a
becomes
little
like
bit, huh?
molten lava. I was like, they can do that?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because the Trade Federation reflect that. They said, that's impossible.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's impossible.
Yeah,
Oh my
That's how they
god.
say it. I can say it, everyone.
yeah, he can say it.
I think my favorite is Duel of the Fates, fight the whole battle sequence, and the pod racing scene.
yeah,
So
Classic-
pretty much exactly what you
fucking
said.
classic
It's like,
scenes.
yeah, the things that the movie's known for, obviously. For
and then
obvious
obviously
reasons.
the little nods, like him building C-3PO, being a genius about that. Greedo being in there, for some reason that just gets me in the right spot. Yeah,
To your point, I actually do like Palpatine, Sheev Palpatine, being all, this is where his power goes away.
Yeah.
And this is where the bureaucrats come in. Now see, I'm like, parcel tongue?
he's fucking like I said, when I was young, I couldn't have cared less. Like I think I obviously knew he was a good actor, and I was like, I understood fundamentally what was happening.
I had no idea who he was.
Oh,
So I didn't know him until Revenge of the
3?
Sith.
And you were like, what?
And I was like, oh. And
I
it's-
wish I had that moment because that sounds dope as fuck.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, I think after that movie, they're like, yeah, and it's all Jar Jar's fault. Then I was like,
Oh,
Or-
the fan theory that he's a Sith Lord.
but also like he's the one that also was like, yeah, he's a good. Blah,
yeah.
blah,
He,
blah,
he
blah.
I'm
goes-
sorry,
he
what?
initiates the thing.
Yeah. Have you not heard
there's
that?
a fan theory that Jar Jar is a Sith Lord, and he's he actually played stupid and moved all this forward, working with Palpatine.
In every scene that he's not actually talking, he's doing something weird with his hands, and so it's like the Snape quarrel thing.
My mind is being blown right now.
Also, the little ETs in there are pretty great too. Shout
Oh,
out
I
my
was
wife.
just going to say
the
one of my
ET.
favorite moments is the moment that I pointed them out.
Yeah.
The little ETs to Bonnie. I was like, wait for it, pause. What does that look like to you?
And not sad.
And she just stopped.
Do you know why he did it? Because Spielberg
Is his
put
friend.
Yoda in ET.
Nice.
Oh, friendship.
Fun fact. Yeah. Where does that? I mean,
Any-
there's.
any
I
other
could go
favorite
on
parts?
forever and ever and ever.
Caitlin.
Go ahead.
I think
No, they won't.
yeah, actually Watto moments for whatever reason because he's so gross.
He's got like literally
Parts with
pubic
him.
like
hair on
gross.
his chin.
I don't know.
He's got what I have on my face on his chin. Just
Wow.
moldy pubes.
Annie.
Just because of like I like the character of him so much that it like those are the parts with him become my favorite because he's so unlikable.
He's so scummy.
Yeah, he sounds like he can't poop.
yeah.
Also, wait, hold on real quick. Or he's got a prostate the size of a horse.
Oh my god! How did you turn it into that?
That is my favorite.
Wow.
That is mark this episode 89. My favorite.
Also,
hockey
at
pads.
the
Wow.
end of the pod race, when after that great thing, is that Baby Greedo?
Yeah. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, that's
It's implied
so
that that's
good.
Greedo.
I was like,
I think
oh my
he
God.
even says it.
I didn't.
He calls him Greedo.
I didn't hear it.
Maybe I made that up.
But also,
You
I'm
might
like, you're gonna die.
You make up a lot. So
I do make up everything.
Also, I'm
Yeah.
like, you're going to die.
I'm like 99. Please correct
Sweet
me on that,
child.
someone, but I'm like 99% sure
It
that's
has to.
Greedo.
But yeah.
I mean, there's other Redinians in the galaxy.
You're gonna be murdered.
Maybe.
Maybe there's
he
only one.
shot first. No, he didn't.
Han shot
The
first.
last of his kind.
But he got murdered. He still got murdered.
Well, he tried to kill him.
Well, regardless,
Self-defense.
He got
Yeah.
murdered.
yeah.
Well, he pays to clean it up, so Han's a good guy.
Yeah, that's all good.
Sure.
I mean, I have tons, and I'll go into it. It goes in with my defense thing, and I'll do it after the qualms.
Favorite characters
Yeah.
and side characters. So we'll do the main three is Liam, Ewan, Natalie Portman. They got the highest billing, and then we'll do all the side characters from there.
For
Okay.
me, it's Obi-Wan all day. That is the greatest thing to come out of this trilogy.
Yeah.
Is Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi, General Kenobi. And he's actually been rated as the more memorable than Alec Guinness.
Yeah,
Wow.
for sure.
Yeah, which I thought was cool. Which is like to
Wow.
me is a big deal because I grew up. Until I was 9, I watched those movies religiously, and that was my Obi-Wan forever.
Yeah.
And
I feel bad because the thing is like this. Alec Guinness has like two main lines. It's like, these are not the droids you're looking for.
Yeah.
And then also, if you strike me down, but those are his main things.
Yeah.
And also like, Obi-Wan, I haven't been called that for, that's it. But this is like, you had 3 movies with him. You got a TV series with him. 2 TV series with
Hello
him.
there. It's my favorite line in the whole trilogy. It's not in this
And
one.
then you got the
Hello
little, the
there.
little fingers.
Oh, the
little
best
fin-
fighting style of all time. If you get the chance to watch Star Wars Rebels, he meets up with Darth Maul again, and it's the greatest thing in the whole world. Narratively, it is
If
one of the
you
best
watch
fights ever.
Clone Wars.
Yes.
This is the one thing retroactively we never get in the movies, and when we do that, we'll cross that bridge there. We just never get any of the Jedi in the stormtrooper uniforms,
I know.
which is the best.
It's a
look
good.
ever.
It's
Yeah,
the best
yeah, yeah.
look.
Anyways, favorite side character.
So yeah, Obi-Wan is my favorite character, and then I think my favorite side character.
Side piece of fries.
It's either Sebulba, because the character design is fucking awesome. So cool that he went back and put him into the old movies. Or Palpatine.
Sheev, yeah.
I think he's really interesting as a character and probably one of the more interesting storylines as an adult to watch. His rise to power and how he manipulates, like a puppet master, manipulates the entire Republic.
I'm going to agree with Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Favorite main lead character. Side is going to be Darth Maul. I've just
Yeah.
the design of him, and which is like when I've
Too late now.
heard
No going back.
that that
Dummy.
he's not dead. Like I go, I want that. I need that in my life. Like a movie. Like don't they reference that in Solo?
Yeah.
He is in it.
He's back
that's
with
right.
robot legs.
That's right. Sorry, my brain
And
went.
then Khaleesi's
Massive
like,
spoiler.
Khaleesi-
Sorry.
I mean, we did the episode.
Yeah.
Khaleesi's like, oh, okay, Darth Maul. And he stands up like, ah!
I just would love to see because it's covered in Clone Wars. What happens?
Yes.
To him.
Yeah.
I would love to
And
see
Rebels.
like a
2
movie.
times.
I would love to see a movie of
Yeah.
that
Oh,
transfer.
That might have been the
Savage.
direction they were headed
An
towards.
entire
Yeah.
movie about
Darth
Darth
Savage.
Maul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Do you know how
Okay.
much money that would make if they
You're
did
welcome.
it right?
I'd make a lot of money
What?
and probably all be mine.
it'd be like a Suicide Squad version of
Maul.
Yeah.
Maul me, please.
The Phantom Returns.
Sorry.
Ooh.
Revenge
I
of the
just need to
Phantom.
hold your hand.
Wow, there's a lot of hand holding happening today.
I don't think it was just him as part of the Phantom, but
Yeah. No, I know.
or
but
the Menace rather. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Because it was also Palpatine and it was also
I like Phantom
What if it's
Returns.
just like
Anakin.
a new Menace? Menace Strikes Back.
Return of the Menace.
And then Dennis the Menace.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Favorite
Dennis the
Apprentice
Menace.
is just named Dennis.
Cinematic Universe.
Side
Darth
is Darth Maul.
Dennis.
You go ahead.
Qui-Gon and Darth Maul.
Yeah. Qui-Gon's a G.
Yeah, he
Ali.
is.
For me, it's Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. Qui-Gon first, Obi-Wan second.
That's
really
Obi-Wan's
like
your side?
Obi-Wan's my side because
Wow.
I just really love the character of Qui-Gon Jinn.
In that
I
case,
was,
if he's a side, I would say Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan.
I was heartbroken when he died. I was like, I want this character. I want to see more Qui-Gon.
Pretty sure I screamed exactly like how Obi-Wan did in the theater. I was like, no!
Yeah.
Main character keeping Obi-Wan as the main.
Yeah.
Qui-Gon. And Padmame.
Padmame.
Padmame?
Padmame.
She's a close third.
Here's a fun fact, and they reference it in one of the films. Do you know what Qui-Gon Jinn was the first Jedi to ever do?
To use Force lightning.
No.
To use mind
Stab a door with a sword.
Mind
He
manipulation.
was the first Jedi to ever figure out how to
Force
Ghost.
Yeah.
Oh.
He learned how to use the
Because
Force.
Yoda's the one
return.
that tells him, but it's like
At the end of 3, I
yeah,
think.
I got contact with a friend of yours, and it's like he was learning how to blah blah blah. It's like Qui-Gon.
So that's why I want that Kenobi movie, because it's him in
Qui-Gon.
search of Qui-Gon. We get Liam Neeson back as Qui-Gon Jinn in ghost form. Anyway, that's not this episode.
Anyway.
And then we
One
get
day.
Hayden Christensen. Now
good.
for the qualms.
Qualms.
Qualm. I'll go.
Yeah.
Main thing, it's a writing thing. A lot of they don't spend
Wooden
a lot
dialogue.
of time in the beginning to kind of give you an idea of who these Jedi are.
Fair.
They let the
They're
scroll
just
do
like,
it.
here you go.
They let the scroll
Figure
do
it
it,
out.
and it's kind of like, yeah, I get it, but it's kind of like I don't get that same Luke Skywalker feel where
Yeah.
it's like, all right, here's this kid, here he comes from. We don't get that till like I think 30 minutes until the film when we actually meet Anakin,
Okay.
and so it's like, all right, here's Anakin, and so it's like, am I supposed to care for the kid now, or am I supposed to
Right.
care about for the Jedi? And I think the really heartbreaking thing and why Qui-Gon became my favorite character when watching it over again is because Obi-Wan's out of the film for a third of the film. And it like kind of breaks my heart when I was like, and I think it really touched me with the moment I had when I was a child when I was like, yeah, I don't care about Obi-Wan. And then all of a sudden I realized who Obi-Wan was. I was like, oh, I care. But then it's like, I cared a lot about Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
And you do, because he is like Mufasa.
Yeah.
And
Even as a kid, though, Obi-Wan,
Everything
I
the
think,
light touches,
case for me.
Obi-Wan.
what the fuck did I just say? The light touches.
Yeah.
Did anyone get that? Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
But yeah, that's the main thing. It's like, and I kind of just think about it where there is some arguments for the fact that the Jedi don't have a lot of agency in what they are doing. They're kind of just pushed along a lot of sides. But that argument gets shattered because of the second act, which again, to me is the film. The second act is the film. Everything else could kind of go away. Because when Qui-Gon starts like, oh, this boy is really talented. This boy has powers. This boy, blah, 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 blah. Like, I would love if the film had mainly just the boy and Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
Because
Starts to question things.
Well, he starts intervening with fate and with chance, with using the Force to change the die. He starts like making deals and then doubling on those deals. Where it's like, cool, he's making decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Other
I mean,
than
she's a kid that has greater potential than Yoda.
Yeah.
It's like, well, something's not right.
The biggest thing that they do for character development, or at least character establishment, is kind of like Obi-Wan's like, I have a bad feeling about this, Master. And it's like, patience and focus your mind. And then that's it.
It's a big deal.
It kind of just shows just the master apprentice dynamic, but it doesn't really show like why the council set them there, da 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 da.
Yeah.
It's just
And-
the friendship.
Yeah,
between them.
and then like later on, it's like, here's Jar Jar. We gotta run. We gotta go to the guns. You're gonna die. Well, how about we do this?
Gooberfish.
Yeah, and so it's like there's a lot of just like push to get to this point. It's not a lot of like, we gotta do this, we gotta do that. The only points you get that are slightly from Qui-Gon, but no one else. And it's a little like, I don't care. And the funny thing, so this is the second qualm, is actually, and I don't think it's like a real big qualm. It's more like, it doesn't hit the mark for me. I don't know. That's a really weird thing, but I think Corey says it in the right way in that sense, is the pod racing sometimes. Now, as an adult, I got a little bored. I was just
Really?
I was like, wow, this is really long. I get it. But I was like, as a kid, I lost my mind when I saw it.
Yeah.
But then this, I'm like,
Is any of that from the fact that you've seen it all before and know the outcome, though? Can you separate that?
no, because there was a part where I think the first person that dies in the caves, I was like, oh, he didn't have to die.
The guy's like, "Wah!"
Yeah, I was really sad. And then
did he die?
But then later on, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, they're still racing.
Sad.
And I was like, this is really long. And it's like, it's weird because I compare it to like Mad Max, right? Where like it's a long driving scene or a long racing scene.
Yeah.
But that one doesn't have like the same editing effect. I think the sound design's great. And I think the music and where it progresses is great. But I think it just is too long.
Couple
for me.
minutes shorter.
Yeah.
I know the second lap is like the shortest sequence, and I think they cut a bunch of it out too. If I'm remember that correctly.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's just
even after all that,
the
Still
intercut
too
between
long.
everybody. I just kind of like, all right, I get it. And I mean, like, I love the stakes of like, yeah, maybe I'll finish it. and it's like maybe you've never finished a race. And I was like, oh, this is even bigger stake. So it's like it
Yeah.
felt good, and then people die. I was like, this feels good, and then I was like, a lot of people died who I don't care about, so let's hurry up and get to it.
Yeah.
But then like the point where like he
Wow.
has to connect the coupling back, I was like, okay, cool danger.
Yeah.
But that was it.
Cool danger.
Cool danger.
Hashtag cool danger.
Yeah, and then I don't know. I don't mind the Gungan scenes. I thought it expands the world. All the character designs for
Their
like
city's fucking dope.
the new
Yeah.
the new aliens and all
The
stuff.
the underwater breathers, by the way.
I
I thought that was real forever.
I think that the government actually hit them up because they thought that they had actually concocted something. If I remember correctly from an interview a long
Really?
time ago,
I believe that.
like government officials hit them up to be like, "Hey, how do you make those? Because we want them." And they were like, "No, they're fake."
CG.
I mean, another little handy
their
little
breath.
thing. Qui-Gon's little communicator is actually just a woman's razor.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's one of those Gillette razors.
I'm gonna go
like
look back
flat,
at it.
wow.
Flat razors. Like,
Wow.
He just
that
used
were
like
big
the back
back
of
then.
it or something.
No, they refashioned it. Like
That's
they
awesome.
spray painted it and all that kind of stuff.
I think the
and
droids are a
anyway.
little too dumb.
Yeah.
That's it.
Roger.
They're just a
Roger.
little too dumb. I'm okay with them being dumb like stormtroopers, but they're dumber than stormtroopers.
One of my favorite jokes in the movie is, where are you taking them? To Coruscant.
Corey, what?
Where are you taking them? To Coruscant. That doesn't
doesn't
compute.
compute. That's the part that-
you're under arrest.
That's the part that got me. I was like, they're too dumb.
Fair.
That was it.
Well, I think they just were checking there's no scheduled shuttles to Coruscant.
Yeah.
Or they're not programmed to know what Coruscant is.
yeah.
Because they're super basic task.
Yeah, maybe.
But it's kind of like you let an entire society get taken over by these dum-dums.
it's the numbers.
Yeah.
It's just sheer
Yeah.
quantity.
It's just more guns. It's not
tools.
trained guns.
yeah,
but it's guns.
because they
They're
can
blunt instruments.
continue to just throw them at armies
Yeah.
and no one's dying. Whereas the Gungans are like, yeah, we have a big army, but like when we get hit, we can't just rebuild them.
Yeah.
So I think that's how it got taken.
And then
But
even with the clones, they want to be as
Trained
efficient.
soldiers.
They want more efficiency without
but then
the
you see
trade-off
like later
of
on they got like
disposableness.
droidicas and the battle droid, the big metal ones that
Yeah.
have like the
The
wrist lasers and shit that like
and the plasma
handle
staffs.
some shit. Like the droidicas, I was scared of that shit.
Those things were
I was
intense.
like, they have shields.
I mean, were those-
I'm sorry.
Are those the rolling ones?
Yeah.
Destroyers.
That
those
just
are
come
intense.
out and then throw up a shield.
Oh,
and
those
they're
are
like,
like,
oh.
shields.
And then they
Monster,
ran.
destroy us.
Super speed.
Well, they're like, it's a standstill.
Yeah.
I was like, cool.
Yeah.
Those are mine. I'm done.
I'm gonna be last.
Qualms, boy. Well, for me, a lot of it stems from some dialogue that I didn't like, and also
Some wooden dialogue.
Yeah. But mainly it was
For sure.
the child actor for Anakin. I just couldn't.
Really?
Jake Lloyd.
I didn't like the way he delivered certain lines. It felt a little
Very
cheesy
precocious.
sometimes.
Very red. Sometimes.
Yeah, very red. So for me, it fell a little kind of flat. And for a movie where this is supposed to be like Anakin's story, we don't meet him for a long time, and then for me, he didn't like steal the show or like I was still interested in Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon at that point, and
Right.
and even through the rest of it, I couldn't get myself behind caring for like Anakin or his story.
To quote Josh, but he's a child.
But he's a child. But I just
child, Ollie.
I
I'm
just
kidding,
saw
I'm
a child not too long ago in a movie, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Darla.
Shout out to Darla. But for Star Wars, it just didn't like. He wasn't funny. He wasn't like a funny kid. He wasn't like charming.
We're also coming off the tail end in that time, and I agree with you. It's a little more so than I can handle. But we're coming off a time of like the '90s kid actors weren't great.
Right.
Like
I think
Yeah.
the
I
hottest thing
rewatched,
was Macaulay Culkin.
and he's not even that great.
Olsen twins.
Like if you
Yeah.
watch Home Alone, a lot of his deliveries are just like it felt like someone said, "Now say this."
Zingers.
Do you know what I mean? Which isn't a bad thing because
But
I
there were-
fucking love Home Alone.
there were moments though where you saw a bit of a performance where he got emotional or whatever, and I just didn't. I feel like I didn't get that.
It wasn't
at all.
consistent.
I bought
Where-
the pure heartedness though.
That part
Yeah.
I got. But that was just more like, well, you're just a kid. You're innocent. You don't know what's going on in the world, as opposed to like you're special for this
And he
reason.
knows. I mean, he does know a lot. He knows about the Jedi and how to build shit.
No
so
one
he
can
should
beat
be a
the
little
Jedi.
Yeah.
I wish that were true.
That was my main qualm. Really, aside from that, it was just like it just didn't feel like a story of a person. Like
It
just
felt like someone else's story, not his.
right, or not even anybody's story. It
Well,
felt
I
like
mean,
nobody's
things were
story.
just
It was
happening.
just things were just happening. So
thing-
I
It's the
couldn't
agency
follow.
thing. It's the agency thing. There's
like,
there's
the
not a lot of strong.
Closest that I felt was that it was Obi-Wan's movie.
I was gonna say that one would argue that it's not. I mean,
There's
I
actually
know
a
that we're
really good
getting-
argument, and I'll send it to you guys, that the prequels are actually
an Obi-Wan. trilogy.
Obi-Wan's story in the sense of how the original trilogies follow Luke, but it's actually a Darth Vader story. That the prequels, they follow Anakin, but it's actually an Obi-Wan story.
He's like a connector.
Was that what you were saying,
Sorry,
Josh?
go ahead.
I can see that.
I was gonna just kind of say that this one isn't. I know that we're getting the storyline of developing Darth Vader, but this first one isn't about him. He just happens to be a character in it. So I guess the focus on him,
Because the plot focused so much on him.
yeah,
Was
After
kind
they
of-
find him, I would argue that this is probably an Obi-Wan Qui-Gon story.
Yeah.
And that
So there's just that disconnect of like the plot's following this character that isn't making an emotional impact on me, but then this other amazing supporting character is kind of carrying it. But it's unfortunately, it could be so much better if they focused on him. But because they're not focusing on him,
can see that.
There's a little bit of a disconnect. So I appreciate his performance and his stuff. And like, I love the story of Phantom Menace. It's just the way it was put together and executed. Not my favorite.
It's
Josh?
kind of similar to Wesley.
Qualms?
my Quimmy Qualms. I am a supporter. I can.
You are in defense of the films?
I am of the Phantom Menace
I'm
and
for-
of the original
For the record, I'm not
trilogy.
against the movies.
No.
Yeah, no. I'm just not like vehemently against them like some people are. I
Right.
watch them, and my qualms about this movie are qualms that I have with all of them, in a sense that
They're not long enough.
yes, that is cool.
Not enough
Caitlin?
Obi-Wan.
No. They're silly. They're just the. I feel like George Lucas is the only person that can take great actors and make them seem like really bad actors.
Oh,
And that's why the performance of Ewan McGregor is so amazing, because he can make the writing as, and silly might not be the right word,
Killing younglings.
but it is one of those things that it's just so stupid at sometimes.
I mean, this was the first one he directed, right?
Well, out of the prequels.
Second one.
Yeah.
He directed the
He
first one.
did New Hope, but then Kirshner did Empire
He
Strikes
did
Yeah.
Empire and Jedi, yeah.
But
So
I
it's
mean,
like,
just this is probably a writing thing. I mean, maybe not even a directing thing, because it's like you can direct. I mean, it is what it is. The words are the words. So there's that a
if
little
you're
bit.
the writer
But
director.
but here's the thing: I go into the movies expecting that. It's not like these are going to break my
They're
world.
like Willow.
And where it's like I'm not. It's fun, everybody. It's okay to like things.
Yeah.
This is neat. Are we not amazed with how cool this is? 1999, everybody.
Yeah. I mean, there's still a lot of good storytelling elements. There's a lot of
Yeah.
just an example of a small foreshadow is during the Duel of Fates, you see Obi-Wan get knocked down like 2 platforms, and he force jumps up to get back to the battle. And then what does he do to defeat Darth Maul? Force jumps over him. So like
Establish
it's
his
established
ability.
and then executed. There's a lot of
Yeah.
establish, execute. That's used really, really well.
I mean, and to be clear, it's not about the storytelling or anything like
Yeah.
that. It's some of the dialogue is a little.
Wooden.
Yeah,
That's how I describe. Like that's how I describe it. Like,
but
some
it
of the,
doesn't-
Like, are you an angel?
Again,
That's
it
the stuff.
doesn't.
I don't like
I
Sam.
thought that was cute, but
That's the
that's
stuff.
me.
It doesn't
it's
take away
adorable.
from it whatsoever. And that, of course, that does translate to Jar Jar Binks a little in terms of some of his lines that you're like, when I first saw it, I was like, why is everybody mad about Jar Jar Binks? Watching it as an adult, I'm like, okay, I get it, but
He's a bit much at times, but there are some times legitimately I still laugh.
He's the
Yeah, I
he's
can
the
see
slapstick.
yours.
He's
So
a,
the
He's
moment-
my qualm.
So the moment when and it's usually not the moments where he's by himself. I usually don't care for the slapstick stuff, like when
Yeah.
it's the bomb stuck
That's
to his
stuff I
foot,
don't like.
whatever.
Yeah.
But like in the moments where Qui-Gon grabs his tongue in the middle,
Don't do that
or
again.
he shocks himself between the pod racer, and he's like, I was like, yeah, he's an idiot. He's a
yeah,
lovable
which is
idiot.
fine,
Yeah.
but I think
Or
the
when
reason why
Qui-Gon knocks him out.
the reason why people don't like it is because like there was not a lot of slapstick humor in the prequels, and again,
Yeah.
it's that I'll call
the
them the
originals.
poison goggles. It's like it's not like the same thing that I just watched.
Yeah.
It's like then watch the same thing you just watched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's tough because the actor who portrayed him, like, it's who's the guy just Sesame Street, all the puppets and
Henson.
It's like it's very much we were doing that with that character for the first time.
Yeah.
And it was revolutionary in that sense, but it's kind of
Fun
like
fact, Henson also did Yoda.
yeah, and in that sense, it's kind of like well, again, coming from 2 TV
Isn't it
series of
Henson and Frank
Ewoks, where do
Oz?
you think it was gonna go? It had to become like a childlike story, and then you see the complete tone shift in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
no one wanted the family movie. Like this was the first time to do that, but also
Yeah.
to create.
But
the
then he's got
explanation.
some great moments. Like the fight with Sebulba is super important to the plot. And I thought that he was great in that scene, eating the chicken, like looking around, making sure, and he like grabs not a chicken, but whatever it's supposed to be, and then he catches him by the tongue and like beats the shit out of him. It's great. It's awesome. Anyway,
so I mean, he's watching it now. I can go, okay, I kind of see, but it is what it is. Like I'm like watching it, and it's like it's a product of the time. It's also a product of the time in the story of the world, like what you were saying earlier of like presenting a new time before the darkness.
Yeah.
And so it's like allow us to get that lightness, get that silly character. Like it's fine.
Like one specific line of dialogue that is that like are you an angel thing where it's like you're not just tricking the audience into thinking he means like biblical angels.
Yeah.
But it feels like Natalie Portman's character thinks he's saying biblical angels until he says the angels that the space angels or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
stars and stuff. Yeah.
why is that a joke in this?
Oh yeah.
Like,
Fair.
is there Christianity?
Well, the
this
whole
was
thing is
beginning
the
of it.
Jedi is supposed to be a stand-in for like the Presbyterian Church.
Right, but
so.
using the word angel in the movie.
Yeah, it's
then
the,
Natalie
there's the
Portman
same argument
being
in
tricked for a second.
there's the same argument in Empire Strikes Back because Han says go to hell and he goes, "Is there a hell?
Yeah.
Do they believe in these things?" And you're just like,
I think he says it again in Solo,
probably.
and so it's kind of like, that's interesting.
Maybe there
It's
is.
it's really glaring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it's a galaxy long time ago. Of course, Jesus
Coincidence.
was there. Jesus
Kaylin.
was there. Don't you know?
Kaylin, your turn.
Even with everything that was just said, it's still Jar Jar for me.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. I mean,
he just bothers me, and like when it got back to like the eating at the table, and he like is eating fruit in the middle of the scene, like in the middle of the dialogue, and he grabs his tongue and is like, "Don't do that again." I was like, I feel the same way.
yeah.
Don't,
I think that's why they had him do it.
Do that again.
You're supposed to feel the same way.
I know, but
So can I just ask a question?
Huh.
Because you said he bothers you.
Yeah,
I am really trying to understand
yeah.
why. Like,
He
what
just-
is it? It just his behavior, like
It
that kind of
took
stuff.
me
too
out
much.
of the storyline.
Okay.
Because he annoyed me,
I
and
didn't-
I
okay.
remember that when I saw it the first time, I was like, "This guy's too much."
I found
Like,
almost none of his stuff funny.
Yeah.
Okay. I
I
remember that
didn't
much.
find it funny, like, and that's personal.
I'm prepared for a
Like-
comedic relief at any given point.
And that's fine. Like, I'm not saying that it's bad, it's the worst, it sucks because Jar Jar was there. It's just like, and I mean, that actor did a great job with Jar Jar. That is like,
Yeah.
With what he was
in
doing.
my mind, like an iconic character because everyone knows what someone's talking about when they say Jar Jar Binks, like
Yeah.
how he moves, how he talks, everything.
I didn't-
Did an amazing
He
job
developed
in that
all that
regard.
himself too.
But
I also didn't love his voice. Like, it bothered me a little bit.
I was
For an amphibian
fine.
creature type thing.
also trouble.
Just well, I
yeah,
guess
that
not
bothered
just,
me more actually.
that's
Watto's
fair.
voice bothered me.
Not just his voice, but the way he like the really high end pitches, screeches.
Lisa.
Yeah, like that stuff. I was like, I don't want to
yeah,
hear that.
Linguiça is
I
a good
think it was
sausage.
just
That's the stuff.
too
That's
many
what I'm talking
elements
about.
of Jar Jar were grating to me.
Okay.
And I wish that if they had maybe rounded it out a little more, like still have the slapstick in there, but find a way to not make it so overt. But like I watched some behind the scenes stuff and he was very like walk like your limbs are noodles. Like he told him to be that over exaggerated. So it was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
made to be that way
Yeah.
on purpose. But it just didn't sit right with me is all.
Didn't hit the
Cool.
mark.
And I mean, I think the tough thing is like it goes back to the writing, right? And I think for me, like, and Corey knows this. Corey can attest to this. Like, I am not for a good comedic relief.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Jar Jar to me is not the worst thing in the film, and it's to me he's almost like
a
Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
Nothing but comedic relief, except that when Drax is written into it, it's like part of his character, but it coalesces with the team.
Yeah.
Right. And this one, it just like he's kind of a character in his own right. And like if we had a movie of him in the desert by himself, he could do a 1-act show.
Yeah.
Oh, for
And I
sure.
think that's, to me, it was kind of like that's how I felt about it. And as a kid, I remember watching it, I was kind of like, I had the toys of it. I don't care. And
As
then
a kid,
watching-
I thought he was fucking hilarious.
and watching it as an adult, like again, like to me, it's like I see where they're doing with this character, and I see all the comedic beats actually for it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it makes sense. But like the fact of the glaring of like you don't have Obi-Wan reprimanding him much, you don't have Padme doing that, you have Anakin who barely interacts with
and
them.
just Qui-Gon.
Yeah, it's just Qui-Gon. But if you had Anakin and him becoming friends, and it's like, let me show you a Gun game, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I can get this.
If they built the
Yeah.
character a little more beyond the
That's, I
jokes.
think, that was-
Yeah, he was a
it's
squeaky
kinda like,
wheel.
It's kind
like
of
you
like
could
Chewie.
just delete him and nothing would change.
It's
about
kind of
the
like if Chewie, you know, like again, starting to play that fucking chess game.
Except that they would have lost the battle
Yeah,
against the droids.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing. The Gungan battle. That I thought.
General.
Yeah.
General.
He's the one who accidentally wins the battle for them.
Clonks, go
So
ahead.
for me, it's a little bit too much. The comedy was a little high for me. Like, I didn't care for the voice of the viceroys. Like, I thought that even at the time thought it was a little ridiculous.
Jedi.
Yeah.
Over here.
That's
how
and
that's the
I know,
I didn't care for Watto's voice either, even though I make fun of it all the
liked it.
time.
but
Super
that's me.
anti-Semitic. Not then, but now if you look back on it, it is, and it
Yeah.
bugged me then too.
You might as well have gold rings on.
But for me, there isn't much. There isn't much qualms. That's pretty much it for me. My whole thing was and I'll make this brief because I know we're already running a little long here. But I know we all like this movie, and so this isn't mainly for you. This is mainly for a lot of people that I've talked to in the past that hate these films. There's a lot of people who don't think they should be here, and here's why I think that they're mischaracterized as bad additions to the Star Wars film. Because one of the main themes to me throughout the original trilogy is the importance of friends and family. That's like at the core of it.
the Motley
Luke's
Crue.
whole thing is his friends and his family come first, right?
Yep.
His dad's Darth Vader. Does he give up on him? No, because it's his dad. And it also, this movie also brought us the Jedi Code, which is also what Anakin defies and Luke defies, but it's isolation versus companionship. So like anytime anyone in Star Wars is quote unquote isolated, something goes wrong. They don't rely on friends, whatever it is. Luke leaves his aunt uncle, they get killed. Like
Anakin leaves his family. His mom
and
dies.
Palpatine's whole thing is to isolate him from the Jedi Council and tell him the things he thinks he needs to hear to turn him. And instead of going to this information to the Council or to Obi-Wan, he just takes it in and is isolated and ends up turning. On the other side of that, the Jedi Council, who say there aren't emotion, you can't have emotion, you can't feel those things, are wrong as well. It's how you use the emotion. The only reason Obi-Wan is able to defeat Darth Maul is because he uses his emotion for good. The only reason Luke Skywalker can defeat Darth Vader is when he uses his emotion for good to defeat him. Yeah.
And that gets compounded with Qui-Gon because
Yeah.
a lot of Qui-Gon's Mufasa advice is trust your feelings.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the thing. It's like if you abide by the code, you'll know the way. And it's a flaw in the council that Qui-Gon sees that Obi-Wan still hasn't understood
Yeah.
yet until the very end.
And it's I mean even Obi-Wan and Yoda tell Luke to not go and don't use your emotions and that kind of thing, and he just says like, no, I'm going to. And that's what made Luke so powerful, is that he could use these emotions but do something his dad couldn't, which is not give in to them.
Right.
Yeah.
So he used them
overcome
as
great
a
fear.
shield instead. And I think this movie does a really good job at telling the importance of family. So like you have Jar Jar. Let's start with him. He was kicked out of the
Gungan.
Gungan cities, but he creates this new family with Qui-Gon,
Annie,
Anakin, his
Padme.
mom, that stuff. He ends up being a general in the Gungan army, saving the day, all that kind of stuff, because he believed in companionship. You have Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, who are like the epitome of how to work with a friend on something. They
Buddy cop.
disagree on quite a lot, but the way they talk to each other isn't like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of what Qui-Gon said is like, I understand what you're saying. I feel this way, and I think we have to do this, and I think it's important. And a lot of time, Obi-Wan's like, all right, I dig that, right? Anakin finds his new... So like, the important with Anakin thing is he's a slave. Him and his mom are slaves. But what do they have?
Each other.
Each other. And it keeps them happy, and it keeps them fine. Like, he's not a sad kid.
Yeah.
He actually likes fixing things and
I'm a
repairing
person.
things. Yeah, so like...
Building C-3PO for his mom.
For me, this movie does a lot to really hit home and set the groundwork, since it is the first one, of the themes of the entire Star Wars
It
franchise.
sets up the lies and the wants.
Right. And like it for me disillusioned. I was super disillusioned with the Jedi. And I was like, oh, they're always right. They're the good guys. Da 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 da. And this movie was the one where I was like, wait a sec. Like,
And some of those themes play out to the newer films.
yeah. And
Yeah.
like, and it played out in fucking like Obi-Wan even has the line, only Siths deal in
Deal in
absolutes.
absolutes.
So it's like right there, it's just handed to you on a silver platter. Like nobody's right. And pretty much the theme of Star Wars is like friends and family are all we really have. So like, let's rely on those and we can save the day.
And
Anyway,
going back to like
Wow,
the
that got deep.
So that's my defense of this film and the rest of the prequels as well.
Going back to like George Lucas
Dang.
wanting to combine all these cultures of like space and westerns and Japanese samurais and stuff like that. It is like a samurai code where it's kind of like there's master apprentice and you give honor, you put honor to your shogun and all that stuff. But it is that inner turmoil of duty as well as doing what's right.
Yeah.
And I think Josh mentions it a lot when we talk about Nerd On specifically, and this is a little bit of like, to your point, Corey, of like, not for us, but kind of like for everyone that listens at home. It's like we don't subscribe to bullies. We don't subscribe to gatekeeping. We're welcomers. We open the bridges for everything. And since this film is kind of like the one that's marred in the most amount of controversy, it's kind of like, there's actors who contemplated suicide and like people who've destroyed their social medias because of the things that happen in the Star Wars fandom. Yeah. And it's, to Corey's point, it's like you can love the thing that you love or you can hate the thing that you hate. But the people are people at the end of the day.
Yep. So anyway, that was my in defense of the Phantom Menace. That's
a
it.
thesis.
Well,
I like it.
Thank you.
By Nathaniel Powers.
Yeah.
I agree with it.
Thank you.
So now we must rate.
Yes.
We must rate.
So I go first because I had no ratings. It's a 3.9.
What?
Yeah. It's like I said. It's probably it's the least good Star Wars film. I don't want to say the worst.
It's the worst one.
Because I don't know if I actually agree with that. It's one of. I think there's maybe one more that I like less than this.
Return of the Jedi?
Return of the Jedi? No.
Oh.
I rated that a 4, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's one of the newer ones.
Okay. Gotcha.
But I think it's really an important movie, and it gave us Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, which to me is like next to Chewbacca is like the greatest thing to come out of this franchise. So
wow.
Who
3.9.
Who else got some votes?
Let's see. I have it written down here. I think Tom, you have 1.
Okay.
And Ali has 1, and Josh has 1, and Caitlin has 2.
Wow. Okay. Josh, Ollie, and me. Who wants to go first?
Alphabetical, so it's Ollie.
Wow.
Time, Josh. Go on.
I am a 3.1.
Cool.
I think I did vote wrong.
Yeah, you did.
No, it's Josh then. I'm not next.
Oh, Josh, you're next.
Alphabetical.
Alphabetical, Josh.
4.
4.
Oh, wow.
3.8.
3.8. I had 3.8 written, and then I changed it earlier.
I had 3.9. At the beginning of the episode, I was like,
I had 2.9.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Caitlin, I chose
Upgraded
wrong.
to 3.1.
I chose so wrong.
4.
So it's you.
No.
me.
Oh, it's
him.
Ollie. That's
What
right.
are you talking about,
3.1.
boy?
Sorry.
He was just ready for
How
it
many
to
votes
be
did I
you.
have? 2?
You had 1 vote.
From who? You?
I don't remember.
I think
Caitlin?
It was
no,
me.
it was you.
Josh?
I voted Caitlin.
I voted for
Yeah,
Josh.
I voted Caitlin too.
Here you go.
You know me so well.
You
You
did.
may take back the throne that we just trade.
Yeah. You just traded
That
back
sounds
and
about
forth.
right.
I get it every once in a while.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I feel good about that, guys.
Yeah.
That was
I feel
fun.
complete.
Feeling
Thanks for
complete.
letting me word vomit for like 2 minutes.
Hey,
that was good.
That was
That's
good
fine.
word vomit.
Thank you.
I think
Yeah.
it was a perspective that I haven't really thought about before. So
Appreciate
I think
it.
it was
Yeah. I mean, it's
good
okay to be
say
wrong.
those
No, I'm
words.
just kidding.
You're quoting me from earlier. I say that all the time. Yeah, you let them know it's fine to be wrong.
Wow.
Well, yeah. Thank you, everybody at home, for listening. We really appreciate you. If you would like to check out more from us, you can check out our website, nerdon.tv. Lots of stuff going on our website. We've got a newsletter that you can sign up for. It is once a month. We have a new show that we have started called the Nerd On Update. And a part of that show is questions from the audience.
From you
Listening, watching on YouTube. Send them. Well, there are several ways. You can DM us. You can comment on anything that you see with a question. You can send an email. The easiest way is to email us questions@nerdon.tv. That is the simplest way to get a question right to us. But yeah, check that out. We also have another podcast called Trope Time. It is once a month, first Monday of every month, hosted by our friends Izzy and Nikki. Really think people should check it out. When
good
I'm
stuff.
editing it, I'm always like, wow, this is
legit.
This
It's well
is
thought
awesome. But yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you loved it, please hit the like. Please hit a review on
Comment,
Apple.
subscribe.
Yeah. Subscribe on Apple,
Subscribe.
iTunes, all that good stuff.
Submarine.
Yes. If you did not like it, please send it to your enemies.
They will enjoy this.
This will,
Probably.
yeah.
They will absolutely enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm not wearing hockey pants.
Wow, twice in one episode.
I had fun doing it.
That was the best
I
one.
had so much fun.
Yeah, episode 89.
Do it.
Well, on that, as always, nerd on.